It was supposed to be an era of renewal for Britain's most storied dynasty. The world watched as a new king was crowned, trumpets echoing off ancient stone. The royal calendar brimmed not just with pageantry, but with the implied promise that the House of Windsor, seasoned with centuries of tradition and turbulence, was finally poised for harmony. The monarchy imagined itself drifting above the chaos of common life, untouchable, burnished by myth, and immune to the woes that broke lesser institutions. But now, as summer's haze gives way to probing headlines and hushed questions in Parliament, a radically different story is being unearthed, one so potentially devastating that no official biography or glossy PR campaign is ever allowed within a mile of it. It begins nowhere near the sunlit balconies or curated family photo ops. It unfurls in the dimly lit vaults, encrypted offshore accounts, and whispered late-night deals that actually prop up the golden facade. This is the real story, a tale of untraceable billions, fractured loyalty, and a dynasty caught between its private greed and public survival. For decades, the Windsors have been projected as above it all, by the royal press machine, less a family, more a living artifact, mythically wealthy yet perversely averse to vulgar commerce. For the first time in a generation, those illusions are splitting wide open. The cracks are not hairline fractures, they are chasms, and independent whistleblowers, dogged journalists, and a rare breed of brave courtiers have begun to follow the money. What they are finding is nothing less than a parallel shadow economy, a story in which the enduring gilded myth is collapsing under the weight of its own hidden fortunes. Behind the gates of every palace, panic. The number whispered only in locked rooms, shielded from ears even among the staff, nearly £1.8 billion in undeclared assets, castles, precious jewelry catalogued only in private ledgers, whole floors of prime real estate from Mayfair to Manhattan, held in shell companies, and heritage funds, so convoluted even their lawyers can't count every penny. Offshore trusts date to before the Blitz. One high official confides, if the public saw half of what's moved through shadow networks, there would be riots by morning. The legend, the so-called humility of the sovereign, would collapse overnight. How did it happen? Start with the global sprawl. The royal family's property portfolio makes even Russian oligarchs look rustic. Shell companies registered everywhere from Jersey to Liechtenstein. Silent partners lurking behind endless layers of trust deeds and consulting agreements. Discreet palace financial officers, disguised as cultural attachés, travel on diplomatic passports, never named, never photographed. One Swiss banker, speaking on condition of anonymity, described seeing consulting fees and heritage preservation bonuses, totaling tens of millions flowing each year, diverted from the sovereign grant, Parliament's official check, and routed as restoration or security upgrades to shell firms. Every audit triggers a new maze of explanations. Scratch the surface, and the story grows darker. During Brexit, intelligence analysts in the Treasury tracked a sudden upsurge in cross-border cash transfers, billions in assets flickering between European accounts linked to the Crown. Insiders describe midnight phone calls, urgent briefings, safeguards being bypassed. Some say it was all just prudent planning for economic turbulence. Others see something much riskier: orchestrated capital flight, historic tax evasion now shielded by international legal fog, designed to keep the monarchy's fortune untouched no matter the fate of Britain itself. Why so urgent? Because, beneath the PR, most royal income still flows from public subsidies, the sovereign grant, estate gains, and parliamentary largesse. This year, Parliament flagged £110 million spent on renovations alone. The document trails are damning: gold-plated bathrooms, private airstrips, art preservation invoices into the millions, and vast spending on crisis communications, with PR consultancies whose only job is to hassle or threaten the press. As one whistleblower put it, the public pays for their privileges and their secrets. Meanwhile, Parliament's patience snaps. One Commons member, live on TV, Why are we subsidizing luxury while British families freeze in winter? The government's answer is stone-faced obfuscation. Yet already 3 closed-door panels are convening on the future financing of the Crown. Early leaks suggest that Parliament may demand full audits, even the nationalisation of royal land, an idea unthinkable just months ago. But money is only half the scandal. What's really shaking the palace is the nightmare it reveals, of a fractured dynasty, eaten from within by whispers of betrayal, asset hoarding, and endless lawsuits. Insiders now describe a climate of paranoia, surveillance, and utter distrust. Every audit sparks more secret meetings. Rival courtiers, loyal to either heir or monarch, jockey in the shadows. Even once favored staffers find themselves dismissed, their pensions withheld, their NDAs ruthlessly enforced. It's a world where the old code of moral duty vanished years ago, replaced by survival of the shrewdest and silence at any price. Beneath this are stories, jaw-dropping, rarely written, but churned through the ranks of footmen and fixers, of hush money paid to contain family scandals. Of cultural partnership, deals with questionable foundations overseas, where major gifts arrive in diplomatic bags, never declared to customs. Of heirs quietly moving millions into accounts for the next generation, insurance, they believe, against exile, or the collapse of the Crown itself. The Sussexes, already exiled in California, are said to have retained American and Swiss lawyers to safeguard their portion. Rumors swirl about new offshore accounts under their children's names, part of a grim, cold-hearted split from the rest of the royal fortune. The palace's expense accounts, once immune to scrutiny, are now a target. Investigators allege whole budgets disappear into renovation projects that don't exist, security measures for empty residences, and millions in consulting for PR or legal reputation management. Every day, new leaks. £1.2 million for emergency repairs to a decommissioned royal yacht, £400,000 for art preservation in unlisted vaults, £3.8 million to handle reputational risk, paying experts to bury scandals or buy silence from unhappy relatives. All this is boiling over into headlines. Social media seethes. Open the books. Make them pay like the rest of us. Public trust, already eroded by years of cost of living crises, teeters on the edge. Opposition MPs begin openly calling for a separation of state and royalty. More dangerous still, respected outlets report that palace PR officers are blacklisting or bullying uncooperative journalists, threatening loss of access if they dig further. But the old tactics aren't working. The harder they fight exposure, a veteran reporter says, the more people want full sunlight on the secrets. Pandora's box is cracked, and what's inside may destroy the entire institution. At this very moment, Parliament's Future of the Crown task force is swamped with leaks, anonymous packets containing not just bank records, but blueprints of family trusts, confidential charts of off-books holdings, expense ledgers, and shell-firm receipts tied to luxury apartments in Paris, New York, St. Moritz. In late-night crisis calls, palace strategy teams contemplate the unthinkable, voluntary disclosures, scapegoating junior officials, even experimental cost-saving measures, to pacify the public. But the consensus is grim, no PR pivot can stem the rising tide. What if Parliament acts? What if criminal conduct is proven? The consequences for the monarchy could be catastrophic: forced asset freezes, repossession of royal land, permanent curtailment of future grants. The notion of a private fortune surviving is questioned at the highest levels. Who really owns the castles, the jewelry, the residual gold? And which branch of the family will survive when, and if, the auditors have their way? The family itself is coming apart. Whispers of alliances with international power brokers, oligarchs, global banks, even rival royal houses, multiply. Unconfirmed reports circulate of deals for diplomatic immunity, of luxury gifts, and shadowy, heritage preservation grants, handed off in exchange for protection or investment. Quiet splits erupt over hidden inheritances. Some favor shedding ancestral property, while others plot to solidify nuclear family control and freeze out rivals, perhaps permanently. Even within the family, utter distrust is law. No one feels safe. Every trusted advisor could be the next to vanish. Every new request for a signature or review is read as a veiled threat. It's a world of whispered threats and sudden firings, once loyal confidants abruptly terminated, old alliances dissolved overnight. And yet, incredibly, many of these revelations still only hint at the scope. For every exposed shell company or missing million, insiders speak of 10 secrets untold. Some believe the lost jewels of the royal family may have literally vanished into the velvet pouches of private banks. Others claim there are deals and coded accounts so ancient, only the 3 most senior family members know the truth, and that none would dare speak of it even in private. For the British public, watching as their own fortunes shrink under skyrocketing costs and austerity, the idea that royal intrigues may cost them hundreds of millions is no longer just offensive. It is intolerable. Protesters gather outside the gates, waving placards demanding transparency now, and no more royal subsidies without receipts. In private meetings, even traditionally supportive MPs begin to break ranks, anxious not to be seen defending a system that now smells like corruption and decay. The monarchy's ability to stonewall is evaporating. Each new leak, each whistleblower's testimony, each document dump ramps up pressure. Journalists now swap theories in encrypted chats, wondering who will be first to crack the ultimate code, or trigger the final royal resignation. Tabloid editors hawk tales of palace lawyers plotting frantic countermoves, bring in disgruntled former staffers, now ready to cash in with tell-all books and TV exclusives. By twilight, Buckingham's windows show only flickering glows, inside, feverish preparations for further damage control. Old guard staff wonder aloud if this is the last summer as we've known it. New recruits plan quietly for the day when their paychecks come from the state, not the crown. There is an air of waiting, for justice, for collapse, for the next bombshell. The real drama is now in closed rooms, where a king and his closest circle gamble not for wealth, but for the survival of the institution itself. Emergency abdication scenarios, lists of interim regents, contingency plans for the total sequestration of royal land. These are no longer the plot of a Netflix show, but the details sketched out on midnight notepads by terrified, aging courtiers. In the background, the drums of revolt beat ever louder. And so, as Britain stands at what may be the greatest reckoning in monarchic memory, ask yourself, what happens when every secret is forced into the light? When distant legend collides with the modern reality of accountability? Is there any magic left behind the palace walls, or only ledgers written in vanishing ink? For now, the world waits as the gates of Buckingham tremble with the anticipation of what might burst forth. For everyone beyond those walls, the true story, the explosive saga the monarchy never wanted told, has only just begun. If you want the next chapter, don't lose faith. Like and subscribe, let your voice be heard, and stay tuned. Because the oldest and most secretive institution in Britain is about to have every lock on its treasury and its legacy picked, pried, and finally thrown wide open.